Welcome, everyone. My name is Kaan. I'm currently serving as the chair of the steering committee for US-RSE, and this is our second annual general meeting. We had our first one last year. I'm going to just give hopefully what amounts to a quick update of what's been happening within US-RSE, some of the events that have happened, taken place, updates, and plans for the future. It's been a great time. So, to remind everyone, our mission, our guiding principles here at US-RSE of this four-pronged mission statement that revolves around community. So we want to provide a place where professional RSEs, aspiring RSEs can connect to share knowledge, resources, connections, whatever that may be, providing a home for people within our profession, advocating on behalf of RSEs, highlighting their impact and research and the value that RSEs serve, providing resources to the community, whether that's to RSEs, people interested in supporting RSEs, institutions, organizations, funding agencies. And last, but certainly not least, is a new one for 2021. This was led by the DEI working group, which we'll talk about later. We'll hear from them. I don't want to steal all their thunder, but this has become integral into our guiding principles and as such has been incorporated into our mission here, and that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will be working actively to promote, encourage, and improve diversity, both within our community, but really the larger RSE community within the US broadly. It's been exciting. We've continued our steady and significant growth over the last year. I went back and looked, and we've added 298 new members since the last time we had one of these meetings. I think this is both really exciting, but also indicative of the fact that there's still many people out there that we need to reach, that are new, that are discovering this community for the first time. So if you bring it up and can mention it to people, that'll help us reach out to others who may still not know that we exist. We're obviously US centric, not surprisingly, but we're welcoming to anyone who believes in what it is that we do here and wants to connect. So we have an international flavor. If we zoom in a bit, new this year, we've added Alaska and Hawaii here. So I'm no cartographer, so don't blame me if it's not to scale. I just did the best I could. But we're not quite in all 50 states, something to aspire to. If you know folks in the Dakotas or Montana that might be interested, send them a note. Maybe we can get them to join. You see hotspots in the Bay Area, at national labs, not surprisingly, along the I-95 corridor in the Northeast. But really, we have a growing geographic representation within the US. So what's new? What's been happening? What might you have missed if you haven't been paying close attention? So internally, this has been an exciting development over the last year. 3 internal working groups have formed or formalized over the last year. The first one being the DEI group. I mentioned how led the effort in adding that DEI mission statement. On Slack, if you're interested in this, each one of these, by the way, will be giving an update right after my talk here on what they've been doing. So I don't want to say too much about them, though. You'll hear it directly. But I think it's safe to say on behalf of any of them, the groups are open. You're welcome to join in the discussion. If you just want to listen, these are the Slack channels where the conversation largely happens. But there are regular meetings, and new members are always welcome. I can say definitively is that new groups and initiatives are really welcome. This is part of this community building and community aspect that we're trying to accomplish here. These all started by a group of people who said, hey, this is something we're interested in. We're passionate about this, and we'd like to have a more in-depth and focused conversation. And these groups started. So if you're interested in something like that, if you need help, reach out. We're certainly willing to lend a hand and help grow some new initiative that you might be passionate about. The last thing I'll say about DEI, and not steal all of Miranda's thunder, but again, I think this is equally crucial to what it is that as an organization we're doing. The DEI group led the development of this and the wording, but this applies to the entire organization. And that's this specific mission statement about how we're committed to providing an inclusive and equitable environment within US-RSE. So if you haven't seen this, I please go read it. There's a bit more at the bottom of this that you can read. You may have noticed, or perhaps not if you're very new, but if you've been here a while, you may have noticed we've got a new logo. This is professionally done. So thanks to Vanessa Sockett, who donated her prize money for an award that she had won. We were able to sponsor a design competition with 99 designs for professional graphic designers to design a logo for US-RSE. So we'd asked to keep some of the coloring, which was, and this call out idea it's pervasive amongst the international RSE community, but retain some of the things that make us uniquely US. So the idea of the flag.
Girl. Yeah.
And I think someone, can we mute everybody? And I think it turned out really great. Obviously, I'm biased, but we've got a new logo. There'll be opportunities to kind of hint at it. Get a chance to have something that has the logo on it a bit later. You can have at home. With that, the website group had, taking inspiration from the new logo, redesigned the website. Again, I don't want to say too much about this because we'll hear an update in a second, but it also evolved to show the maturity and the different needs of the growing US-RSE Association. The previous one was actually the second iteration, and that had started around the time there were maybe 80 members in US-RSE and served a slightly different purpose. So if you haven't been poking around the website, please go take a look. Feedback's always welcome. And it's exciting to see the new logo so prominently featured. Another new update, which was needed to be able to do this, was we now have we're officially a nonprofit member organization of the Open Collective Foundation. So this can be considered our fiscal sponsor. We're a member organization within OCF, which is an official 501c3 organization. And this allows us a few really nice features. We can transparently manage our finances. So you can go to the website, hear the link here, and see exactly what's coming in and what's going out. It also allows us to accept donations, allows us to spend money. We will be doing an initial fundraising campaign that Chris is going to talk about in a little bit. He'll explain all of this. Really, Chris has been great. We evaluated a number of possibilities to do this, and for really both the immediate and short term, this was the best solution for us. There were other options out there, and in weighing how much it was going to cost, how much effort it was going to be, this gave us really the best option for right now. We've hosted a number of sponsored events. So in February, we teamed up with the Academic Data Science Alliance to host a really popular early career panel on data scientists and research software engineers in academia. It's on our YouTube channel. You can go check it out if you missed it, and more about it, or pass it along to somebody who you think might be interested in a career in research software engineering. In May, we hosted our second annual virtual workshop with the theme of a path forward for research software engineers. It's also on the YouTube channel. You can take a look. There were lots of talks that are still there, and you can go take a peek in case you missed it. Before I get to the next event, I wanted to mention, so we were one of the founding members of the International Council of RSE Associations. So this may have been mentioned briefly at the end of last year, but the idea here is that as these international RSE associations start to form, we realized there was really no formal way by which we were communicating. I happened to know some people here or there, but how did events get branded an international RSE event? What happens if there are questions? How can we go? There were questions about the role of the UK group, which became a Society of Research Software Engineering. And so these groups came together and decided to form a council of the leadership of each of these. So we've got Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands, the Nordic countries formed one cohesive group, Australia and New Zealand, the Society of Research Software Engineering, which is the UK group, and of course us. So Dan Katz and I are the 2 US representatives, or at least we were for 2021. And we met 8 times. I had a lot of sort of operational and organizational and governance type questions that had to be sorted out. How do we make decisions? How do we vote? Who can become a member? Those kind of things. And that's all been finalized. This group is essentially owning the researchsoftware.org. That's where, as a single landing page for these member associations. And what I want to talk about next is what I think is kind of most tangibly an outcome of this, as the idea was born in here and coordinated for International RSE Day. So this was decided. If you think you have scheduling problems, try scheduling 7 multinational associations across the entire globe and figure out how to orchestrate a single, when is good, it's never good. But somehow we managed to settle on the 2nd Thursday of October as being International RSE Day, teamed up with everyone, and everyone essentially did their own thing. So we coordinated via the council, the goal here being just to raise awareness, show that we have this cohesive global community, we support each other, we're partners here in this effort of advancing this profession. And we landed on the 2nd Thursday of October. The Asia RSE Association used this as a launch pad to announce their existence. So we have yet another RSE association coming to light. Special shout out to Blake Joyce here, who led the organization. It's also for our event, so I've opened to everybody, but we did it in US friendly timings. Had a panel, some invited talks, lots of question and discussion. Go take a look on YouTube if you missed it. We've continued our community calls over the course of the year. You can see these. So these are not listed on YouTube. They're there. They're unlisted, being more of an open discussion. We've decided that we'll just put links in the Slack channel and community calls, and you can go back and look through for where they are if you want to catch one that you missed, but not necessarily being the face of the association. So you have to be a member and kind of know where to look in order to find ones in the past. Got one coming up next week on conducting constructive code reviews. These happen on the 2nd Thursday of each month. If you have suggestions, there's ways to suggest it. Frankly, I think DEI from the year before, the education and training, these have resulted in working groups forming. There's been enough momentum behind the discussion in these that working groups have formed, and the conversation has continued in significantly more detail. We haven't taken a picture since September 2020, so put it down on the things to do. We need a more current photo from one of these community calls. They're usually quite well attended, and the discussion is really interesting. Done a number of outreach at conferences or other events recently, just trying to spread the word about not just US-RSE, but RSEs in general. Had a couple of poster and a talk at SIAM, CSE, ACH, PERC, supercomputing, and September RSE. We have participated in an international day panel. And it really does work, because we almost always see a slight uptick on that day in people joining US-RSE after they find out about it in these various communities. As I'll say later, if you think there's a place we need to be and we need to be doing this, please let us know. This is really what we want to be doing. I feel the need to mention this every time. We have a job board. It's the 2nd most after the front page visited site or page on our site. We've had 127. So this was as of Wednesday. I think actually one's been added since. 127 unique postings. There were 18 when I took this screenshot. We have a Google form, so even if you're not familiar with the PR process or GitHub, which we discovered was limiting people to post, and now we've got a really cool bot that posts it to the jobs channel once one goes up there. And this is old. This is from before, but if you have a success story, from either side of the table. So if you've successfully hired someone, if you're a hiring manager through this, or if you found your new RSE position, please let us know. We like to hear the success. It's really great to hear that this is working. We've been in the news and SIAM News on essentially an article, a blog post that we wrote talking about US-RSE. There's a little bit more than this. There's not just research software engineers are a thing, and US-RSE is this organization that's trying to support it. But if you scroll down to the end, you'll see there's what researchers, so you're not an RSE, what you can do to help support the people who are RSEs, who are developing the software and want to get credit for it. So it's things like cite the software that you're using, give credit. If someone, you couldn't have done this work, add them as a co-author to your paper, things like that. So this is the advocacy, and it works. I got an email from someone who I've worked with, is a math professor, said, this is great, and saw my name and sent me a note. So people are reading this who aren't RSEs, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here. I hope everyone has seen this. If not, let's go back, check your email, take a look in Slack. The International RSE Survey is open and live. It'll be open until January 22nd. This is really valuable. Please complete the survey, send it to colleagues who may be there, who may not know, encourage them to do it. This is really valuable across the globe, but also to the US. This was last run in 2018. It's got, building a survey is challenging to say the least, but it's got a lot of the same questions that we're carrying over, so we can see how the profession and the landscape evolves or has evolved since then. We had 197 US responses in 2018. I think we need to triple this. We need everyone's help to try to do better than 197. We can definitely get more. So just to give you an idea, we can see how this is changing. I know this might be slightly hard to read, but this is saying that roughly almost half of folks who identified as a research software engineer had a doctorate, and then 30-some% master's degree, and 22 or so % with bachelor's. Let's see how that's changing. I don't know. It will be interesting to see, or what RSEs are doing, how they're spending their time, technologies that they're using, how they want to be using their time. All this will help us as we start to inform decisions about what US-RSE does, but also how we advocate and present to the broader community. So last time I was here, this was a screenshot of the slide that I had shared of what we had hoped to accomplish of the year. We checked them all. We are a little bit late on the International RSE Survey, but it was run in 4 languages across all these different associations and people. It was quite a challenge to get out, but we got it out. It's there. And so we accomplished all these. So what's next? What do we have in store for the next year or so? We're going to want to continue to raise awareness, both of US-RSE, but also advocating for the role of the research software engineer. Please, if you have a suggestion for a venue or event where we could speak and talk about this, we're all ears. We want to hear it. This is what we hope to accomplish. We're going to continue our community calls. They've been popular. Join the channel there. There's a GitHub of places where we can vote to help propose topics, and you're welcome to help come and organize a particular topic that might be a particular interest. It's a lot of work behind the scenes to maintain members. They change institutions, emails. It becomes a challenge to keep a mailing list up to date. So we want to figure out a better way to do this that doesn't involve poor Christina spending hours and hours on a regular basis of just trying to maintain something that could be automated. And to that end, moving towards financial sustainability. Chris is going to display it. You can see over here on the side, fundraisers. That's a mock-up of something that Chris will tell you how to get your hands on if you want to support US-RSE and get a cool shirt in the process. But that's something that we need to move forward towards. We want to support the working groups and the work that they're doing and enable them to continue the important work that they're doing and discussing. We have a few events that we know that are going to happen. So the first is the Sloan Funded Community Building Workshop, which I'll talk about in the next slide, but other additional workshops as we've done in the past. And of course, it went over so well, we're going to do it again, International RSE Day on the second Thursday in October. So for those that have been around a while, we have been talking about this for 2 years. We are now hoping no one is allowed to say anything about COVID or new variants. It's a bad word. We're not going to talk about it. So we're planning this in Princeton for April 26th and 27th. The grant was originally awarded in 2019 for an April 2020 workshop. It should come as no surprise that that did not happen. We've postponed it 3 times, hoping for not having to postpone for a 4th. The goal then, as it is now, is to plan the best path forward for US-RSE. So that's how do we build this community? For lack of a better analogy, how do we pour gasoline on the fire to help this community grow and prosper? Some things have changed. If you remember the chart, I mean, we were really, I think when we wrote that at 150 members and now at around 900. We've done some of the things we thought we might need to, but there's still so much that can be accomplished by getting people in rooms together and working on deciding what's the best path forward. What can we do to have the biggest impact? I realize there's a million reasons why you might not want to travel, might not be able to. So rest assured, this is not the only opportunity to get involved. While we might not have a remote option there, we're not going to be making this a hybrid event. There will be, we're inherently a virtual organization. There will be virtual events. There will be opportunities before and after to get involved and to influence the direction of this organization. So there's an open application to apply to show interest. Please fill it out if you're interested. You know, honestly, even if you're not sure if you can attend, it's worth putting in there to say it. Show interest, just so we can gauge future events, future in-person events. Look, if it's COVID that's prohibiting you, if your organization is not allowing travel, let us know. And you know, it's we certainly understand. But fingers crossed that we can actually do this. Beyond the short term, some of the things that we've been talking about are there's demand for an annual RSE conference and/or more workshops. I've been using this hashtag for a couple years. It's starting to feel a little close, but I think it's still possible of trying to do some kind of conference in a couple years. There's been demand, I think it's been dampened a bit by COVID, but you can see there are these regional hotspots, perhaps having some local chapters, events, places where RSEs who might be on their own or less connected in their home institution organization of finding ways to have local meetups or chapters or events. A more formal advocacy program that we could promote RSEs as we start to influence the community around us. And some kind of career development program. So maybe this is a mentorship program, maybe this is some kind of early career development approach. Details to be fleshed out, but we think that this growing a pipeline of research software engineers is something that US-RSE can and should be centrally involved in the best interest of the long term of our profession. So these are going to change. Right? We're going to have new steering committee members that we hope and expect bring new insights. Community building workshop will help set some of these and plot a path towards them. And working groups, we've seen the influence that working groups can have already, and we hope and encourage them to feedback on the long-term direction of US-RSE. So most of the stuff happens in Slack. If you're not on Slack, poke in every now and then and take a look. Yes, you can post. Yes, you can create a channel. Yes, you can start an initiative. Yes, you can organize an activity, an event. Yes, you can start a working group. I had to put one on here that was no, and we're open and welcoming. It's not just HPC. It's not just national labs. It's not just academic institutions, private industry, institutes, digital humanities, social sciences. If you identify with the role of the research software engineer, you're welcome to join and participate and be part of our community. So I want to take 1 minute to thank those, many of which are up for re-election or outgoing, the current steering committee. I don't know if everyone realizes just how much effort these people put in behind the scenes to keep this going, to organize these events, to keep foot on the gas, to keep this growing. It's a great group. So thanks for all that everyone has done. If you want to get in contact with the steering committee, contact at US-RSE.org goes to everyone here, or tag at SC on Slack, and that will ping everyone in this group. So we're going to take questions, comments in the open discussion period at the end after all the updates. But we'd love to hear, what do you hope to see us accomplish? What are you looking for? What would make your life better? What would US-RSE do, offer, accomplish that would improve things for you? Please give us your feedback, give us your suggestions, throw your idea out there. That's how this started, and that's how we're going to continue to operate. So I have question times at the end. Please post in Slack if you need to get a hold of the steering committee, tag at SC, or email us at any point. So with that, I am going to stop share, and I'm going to ask if Miranda's here. We're going to hear from our working groups. The first one is the DEI working group. Miranda. Oh, there you are. You are already out there. I was looking over lots of little squares. So Miranda, you can give us an update on what's been happening with the DEI group.
Absolutely. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen, please.
Looks good.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. And thanks, Ian, for all of the introduction on the DEI working group and not spoiling too much of what we're going to talk about today. So the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group, as mentioned, it formed, I think, in late 2019 or early 2020. And our immediate initiative at the forefront was we wanted to do something and integrate DEI into the US-RSE mission statement, which we got to do this year. So if you haven't gotten a chance to go and look at that page, as Ian mentioned, it would be great if you could. This is a living and breathing mission statement. I want this to be very clear. If there's something that you think that is missing, something that, some language that you think needs to be changed, absolutely make a suggestion about it, either in the DEI discussion channel or open a PR in the US-RSE GitHub to, suggest your changes. But basically, our mission statement is all about the inclusive environment with equitable treatment. It's about the integration of DEI practices, the amplification of diverse perspectives, and the welcome and respect of individuals for all dimensions of diversity. In order to do this, we have a lot of goals that go into it, like continuing education and practicing empathy and making sure that we're hearing people and respecting the backgrounds that they come from. And we are quite happy to have this as the fourth tier of the US-RSE full mission. Other things that we've done in 2021 is we started the DEI speaker series. The goal on this one is to actually achieve one of those things in the DEI mission statement, which is continuous education, unique perspectives, and deep experience. We have had 2 speakers so far. Our very first one was Dr. Sherry Pancake on her talk, Can We Change the Face of Computing? This one was recorded and is available on the YouTube channel. So if you didn't get a chance to see this one, it was a great conversation, a great presentation that Dr. Pancake brought. And it's a great time for you to go and review it and see the sort of things that we bring to the stage. The second one that was in August, we were not able to record. It was another great discussion, though, from the National Center for Women in Information Technology. And then we have even more events planned for 2022. So keep an eye out for those emails or those posts in the events and the DEI discussion channels on Slack. We also started the DEI Media Club. It was originally coined the DEI Book Club, but we decided to expand it because not everybody likes to read or has time to sit down and read, chapters out of a book. But most people have time to do something every once in a while, like listen to a podcast or watch a video. So in this club, we discuss RSE-related DEI resources, or sometimes not. Sometimes, like this last time when we listened to an episode of Code Switch, The Folk Devil Made Me Do It. Had nothing to do with RSE, but it was a very interesting conversation and we had some great ideas that came out of it. So keep an eye out for these as well. They happen about once every month, and it will be a rotation between different media styles. So it won't always be podcasts, won't always be books, won't always be movies or YouTube videos, but it will continue to kind of change to address everybody who potentially wants to come. Looking forward into 2022, we have some other initiatives that we're looking at kicking off or, finishing. So for example, one of the things that we started spearheading this year was the Spanish translation of the main website. That we're hoping to get integrated in 2022, and also best practices for encouraging diversity when hiring. We're also planning on creating a collection of DEI resources that could be of interest to US-RSE members. And some of those resources, by the way, come out of the DEI Media Club discussions. So if you're interested in helping to contribute to that, that's a great place to start, as well as just the DEI discussion channel on the US-RSE Slack. We also hope to coordinate with some other groups, like maybe the Education and Training Working Group, to promote mentorship and sponsorship for people in underrepresented groups and expand our outreach basically to those who may need help but don't know how to get it. If you're interested in joining us, we are always looking for more members. The more diversity we have, the better we can address DEI in the RSE community. So please join us on Slack. We'd be happy to hear from you. It's the DEI discussion channel, and we look forward to hearing from all of you. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Miranda. So next up, we have the Education and Training Working Group. Jeff,
all right, that's me. I don't have slides. I figured we can just talk for a minute just to kind of give a brief update on that. So we've been meeting once a month. As of right now, our meetings are the first Tuesday in the month. So we'll have our last meeting for the year next week. And basically, we've been looking at how education and training activities can be promoted by the US-RSE to help RSEs. So we've done a number of different things over the course of the last year or so. We've developed some resources. Actually, fairly recently, we created the first web page on US-RSE for a working group. So if you haven't seen that, you can find that under the list of working groups in the About section, and there we've linked to some of the materials that we've created so far, which are still works in progress, but those include things like we're starting to gather training materials that are out there and providing links to those. We've built off of a previous effort to identify a set of RSE skills that are skills that RSEs may possess, not necessarily an exhaustive list for everyone to possess. And we're also working on some different archetypes, different types of people that serve in RSE roles. And the hope is to start to bring some of this together in the next year or so to look at maybe information that could be useful for something like certificate programs, or even in a long term, which may or may not be feasible, something like even a degree program. And I think going forward next year obviously depends on kind of what direction the group wants to go. We've had a fairly active 8 to 10 person group, but I'm definitely looking for more people that are interested in joining. Thinking forward to next year, we may be looking to do some things, even kind of like the DEI group has been doing, with some sessions of presentations on education topics. So we're open to those ideas as well. And so maybe we can try to provide some more input back to the community as we move forward. So like I said, as of now, we're meeting on the first Tuesday of the month. Probably in early next year, we may revisit that and see if that's the best time still for those that are active. So if you're interested, now's a great time to get involved. We do have the channel on Slack. You can put your information there if you're interested, or contact me through that if you want the link to the meeting you want to join us next week. So with that, I will save other time for other groups. Thanks, Ian.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. All right. Last but not least, we've got the website group, and Christina, over to you.
I am talking for the website group, a lot of which has already been shared. So we have always had a website and had people that were contributing to it, but we sort of formalized a working group last year with the idea of doing the redesign specifically. And as you've seen, we've done that and have the new logo up. As Ian featured, sort of more prominent placement for some of the job board stuff, trying to make that process work a little bit better. And then trying to get information out about our working groups and all the different components that people are working on. So what I'd like to highlight, I guess, is that it is a working group and that it's open, that we do need people to do lots of different things to keep our website and our communications going. This is, we host this on GitHub, it's using GitHub pages, everything is public. Had 47 different contributors to the website. We've have even more. It can be small things that you contribute. You can always post issues. You can also post things in the Slack channel for the website committee. Got lots of things where people have ideas of ways to make things better. If you have any experience at all with doing these, we would definitely welcome your help and input to do this. Also hoping in the new year to have approximately quarterly meetings where we get together to sort through some of these issues and try and tackle some of them, trying to have ways to help people get started working with the website. How do you set up Jekyll? How do you get this repository, you know, all set up locally so you can actually look at things and try and tackle some of these issues? So we would love to have new people integrated. As DEI group mentioned, there is also an effort to add Spanish translation to at least some of the core pages of the website. So that's another way to get involved on both sides of this. But yeah, basically people are in the website channel. You can review pull requests, you can make suggestions there. We'll generally encourage folks to try and tackle issues that they identify themselves, but you do not have to. You can just share things and share a need. It is not your responsibility to necessarily fix it, but we're happy to help you figure that out as well. I will stop there.
Great. Thanks, Christina. All right, so those are our 3 working groups and our updates. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Yulia, who's going to introduce the elections and steering committee candidates. Over to you, Yulia.
Hi, everybody. Well, I hope everybody knows that we have elections starting today. And they're currently, this year, we have 5 of the steering committee seats that are up for election for a 2-year term, 2022 till the end of 2023. And everybody who joined by November 19th is eligible to vote. You should all have gotten an email, or everybody who is eligible should have gotten an email this morning from Election Buddy. If you didn't get that, check your spam folder. If you're sure you didn't get it, but you should have gotten it, let me know, your Lance, and we'll get you added so that you can vote. Voting is open until next Friday, the 10th of December. And I will start the video now with all the introductions from the 8 great candidates we have. All right. Okay, so everybody see that? I'm gonna turn it on. I hope that the sound is okay. If not, let me know.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nicole, and I'm a software engineer at Purdue University in an RSE group. I originally got started on this career path by doing HPC-enabled research in school. And this is what initially connected me to research computing at a time where I was applying for jobs and doing the industry internships. And I got this sense that if I stayed on in research computing, that I would get to learn more things and that the job would just be more interesting. And I wasn't wrong. One of the reasons, though, that I decided that Purdue was going to be for me after I graduated was because I was involved with Women in HPC already. And they were encouraging me to apply for travel funding and to go to conferences with them. And they made me feel like I had a community. And that is what drew me to part of what drew me to this field. And what I would like to do as a steering committee member is to bring that experience to other people. And I think we can do this in 2 ways. One of which we are already making a ton of forward progress on, and that is trying to create a more inclusive environment. So far, I've gotten to be a part of the DEI working group, and as an active member of that since its inception over a year ago, I've gotten to help start a book club, which is now a media club, and to start a speaker series and recruit people to that. And at the very least, it's made me feel like I have a home here in this career. And it gives me the sense that it is a career and not just a job without a title. So The other way that I feel that I can contribute is being the voice of the student, right? Like that wasn't very long ago for me. So when we think about how do we recruit and how do we develop talent, maybe is how we should think about it into this field. Those memories are fresh on my mind, and I think that my early career experience is actually a bit of an asset in making sure that we have a diverse pool of applicants to hire from. So that's certainly a very important aspect of the building this career in a diverse and inclusive way as well. And those are the two ways that I would like to contribute. And thank you so much for your time, and happy holidays.
Hi, my name is Jeff Carver. I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Alabama, and my research focuses on software engineering, specifically human factors. For the last 15 years, I've studied the adaptation of software engineering practices for use in research software and how research software engineers can effectively use those practices to develop research software. I also manage a relatively new RSE effort here at the University of Alabama. It's been my pleasure to serve on the US-RSE steering committee as one of its original members, and I believe that we've done a lot of good things so far as a steering committee, and therefore I'd like to serve another term and continue helping the US-RSE move forward. I'll start with a brief overview of my work on the current US-RSE steering committee and then describe what I think I can bring to the steering committee and to the US-RSE in the next term. One of my roles that I've taken on is to lead the education and training working group. Given my background as a professor and my expertise in software engineering, this role seems natural. During the last year, the ENT group has worked to begin identifying existing training resources and has created a list of RSE skills. Going forward, the group is working to develop more concrete guidance that can be useful for certificates and even degree programs in the future. For the last year, I've also had the opportunity to serve as the secretary, where I've been responsible for editing and uploading the videos to the YouTube channel and organizing them into various playlists. I've also worked together with two other steering committee members to obtain funding from the Sloan Foundation for a US-RSE community building workshop that will occur next spring. And last, I've been part of the US-RSE effort in developing and distributing the International RSE Survey. As a representative of the US-RSE, our goal was to ensure that the survey had the questions that were going to be relevant to our organization. Now I'd like to provide a bit of information about my research work and its relevance. I've conducted extensive research on the development of research software, and I focused on studying how people can effectively use various software engineering practices to improve the quality and sustainability of their research software. Some of the topics I've studied and given presentations about include peer code review and software testing. This long-standing research program has given me some insights into the development of research software and into where some of the difficulties lie. So my experiences on the steering committee paired with my academic background have motivated me to seek another term on the steering committee to continue working towards the advancement of education and training for research software engineering. I'm especially interested in those software engineering and software development practices that help make developers more effective and help make research software more sustainable. My formal background in software engineering, along with my role as an educator, make me well suited for this task. I look forward to working with the international group to analyze the results of the RSE survey to help us better understand the community's needs and to work towards education and training solutions for those needs. I look forward to continue bringing software engineering expertise and perspective to the steering committee and to the US-RSE in coming years. And so I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Kazan, and I'm the Director for Research Software Engineering for Computational Data Science here at Princeton University. As I said in my candidate statement, it was in grad school that I discovered it wasn't just the science that I enjoyed, it was the programming. I'd happily stay up all night writing code, but read a paper, it was like eating sand. Sure, I could do it, but it was mighty painful. So fast forward to 2016, when I was fortunate enough to be given the task of building a small central team of 5 programmers at Princeton. Shortly after, I discovered the UK RSE Association was something of a light bulb moment. After participating in the first International RSE Leaders meeting in London in early 2018, I was convinced we need this in the US. I mean, I certainly wasn't alone. In the back of the room at that meeting, US-RSE was born, Chris and Sandra and a few others. I've been serving as the first chair of the steering committee over the last couple of years here at US-RSE. You've probably seen me at workshops, community calls, giving US-RSE updates, organizational news, speaking on behalf of US-RSE. I've been involved in virtually every aspect of this organization, put in hundreds of hours to help lift US-RSE off the ground. Frankly, I'm not ready to stop. Maybe one day, but I think there's just still too much to do. We've grown from a silent Slack channel with 12 people up to a vibrant and growing community like this. It's really exciting to see. We've created a formal governance structure with elections like this, so that US-RSE can live for decades to come beyond any one individual or individuals. You know, when I think about it, I think we've come to something of a tipping point with US-RSE, with more people generously volunteering their time to connect, contribute, grow the organization, reaching a point where we're legitimately having an impact on people and their careers. Funding agencies, institutions, and other organizations are starting to pay attention. They're starting to recognize us. Just look at the change in the recognition of the role and the term RSE. So much has changed in the last 5 years. A term meant nothing, and now we have conferences, including it on the registration page of what's your role. RSE is one of the choices. It's amazing. So moving forward over the next 2 years, should I be elected, I want to continue the efforts that we've started, focus on building the community to a place where RSEs can connect, feel connected, grow, learn, and feel welcomed, part of a group. I want to see US-RSE move towards long-term sustainability. So whether that means through financial means or a group of volunteers, we need a way to keep this going. We need to capitalize on our growth, continue influencing our local organizations and the broader research community. So I hope you'll vote for me. I'm proud to be part of US-RSE and what it stands for, and I believe together we're stronger. Thanks very much.
Hi, my name's Charles Farrenbaugh. I'm a computer scientist and research software engineer at Los Alamos National Laboratory. I've been doing RSE type work for over 25 years now, for several years in industry and then at Los Alamos. And I've experienced, as many RSEs have, the problems of working in a system that is geared toward domain scientists who write code. And as someone who made software contributions to large physics projects, I had difficulty finding a career path and getting opportunities. Fortunately, that situation has improved in recent years. I've been able to find more recognition at the institution of the importance of good software engineering practices and of the software engineers who do them. That change has come about in large part because of the rise of exascale computing, advanced architectures such as GPUs, and lots of new and complicated things that the physicists realized that they needed help to deal with. And that's where people like me have been able to step in. I now serve as the computer science lead for one of our large physics projects, and that one of our large physics code projects, and that includes oversight of the software engineering and code modernization aspects of the project. I was very excited several years ago to learn about the RSE movement in the UK, and I really wanted to see something like that start up in the US as well. I was fortunate to connect with the organizing group here in the US early on and to be a founding steering committee member. I've helped to organize several events that US-RSE has held, workshops and other gatherings at conferences. I've also been the lead organizer for the Research Software Engineers in HPC workshop that's been held for 2 years now at SC20 and SC21. And I would like to continue serving on the steering committee to bring, to help the organization to grow and expand the resources it can bring to the community. I can bring to the group the perspective of a national lab worker and also the perspective of someone who's done a lot of work in HPC. And I would appreciate your vote. Thanks for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Sandra Gesing. I'm the Scientific Outreach and DAI Lead at the Discovery Partner Institute at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And I'm also the Vice Chair of this current steering committee of US-RSE and a member of the founding US-RSE steering committee. I've been into software engineering and programs since high school. I was a system developer and the head of a systems programmer group in industry for years, and I did my master's in computer science and my PhD then in a bioinformatics group. I came 8 years ago to the University of Notre Dame as RSE and computational scientist, and I switched then to a research faculty position in the RSE group to create funding streams for the group. The sustainability of research software has many facets, and I'm passionate about improving career paths for RSEs. Community outreach and interdisciplinary events are crucial to contribute to changing academic culture. In the last 3 years, I've presented over 30 times at different events or talked as a panelist about RSE, research software, and its importance for research at a variety of events, from September RSE to SOURCE to supercomputing to PERC to ESIP, to address the Earth science community, for example. I've co-chaired over a dozen events, and this is what I love to do, and I would like to continue doing. I think it's necessary to grow the community, and we have often seen a larger increase of members of RSE at US-RSE after events and presentations. I like the open structure with working groups we have set up in US-RSE. Everyone can contribute as much and little what they feel comfortable with. I'm an active member in the DEI and website working groups, and I'm looking forward to set up working groups around additional topics. Even so, we see an excellent growth in the community. It's still a long way to go to reach a change in academic culture. I would like to support to reach out not only to RSEs, but also to communities that can support RSEs, like scientists, university leaders, or encourage social scientists researching the RSE ecosystem. There's still so many people who don't know about RSE yet. Another topic I would like to address, if in-person meetings are possible again, is to offer local events in the Chicago area to bring people together for exchange of ideas beyond the virtual meetings. I think local chapters can bring additional dynamics and energies. So my efforts would aim at local to national and international range. I hope that one day high school students know about RSE as a profession and are interested in being one. That's a long journey until then, but it starts with small steps, and I would like to help with this and would like to go these steps as a member of the US-RSE steering committee. Please vote for me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rinku Gupta, and I'm very happy to be here. I am a research software specialist at Argonne National Lab, and I have been working very actively as a research software engineer in the scientific computing field for over 2 decades now. I have been at Argonne for 12 odd years, and before that, I was in the industry as well as academia. To tell you a little bit of something about myself, outside of my passion for the RSE movement, my research focus has been fault tolerance, resiliency, and building middleware libraries for supercomputers. I have worked as an RSE on several ECP projects, and I also serve as an editor-in-chief of the Better Scientific Software website. This website is more popularly known as bssw.io, and it's considered as a premier portal for disseminating information on good practices, techniques for improving software sustainability and developer productivity. And it's actually very widely used by research software engineers now. I have been actively involved in the RSE community through organization of different events and participation in different events, both domestically as well as internationally. Over the last few years, I have grown to be more passionate about advancing the RSE cause in Department of Energy labs. And last year, we even started a grassroots movement at Argonne National Lab with the goal of increasing awareness and increasing education and interaction opportunities for RSEs at Argonne. Having been an RSE for so long, I would like to believe that I bring insight from ground zero to some of the challenges and issues that are faced very commonly by RSEs. And I also bring forward some solutions to some of these challenges. While the RSE movement has come a long way in the last few years, I believe we need to continue to initiate and promote RSE initiatives domestically with emphasis on RSE career tracks, education, training, as well as recognition across across the entire spectrum of scientific computing community. And at the very end, I would like to say that I would continue to work with my fellow RSE members and with US-RSE to advance the RSE cause and to promote the importance of fully supporting the careers of RSEs. Thank you so much for listening to me today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Maimon. I am one of the founding members of the US-RSE Steering Committee, and I would like to continue that work for another term. I work at Northwestern University, and while I currently work with researchers in all different domains, my degree and experience are in social science, and most of my current work falls within data science. This gives me a perspective and background that is different from other candidates and the continuing members of the steering committee. I think having this diversity of perspectives and backgrounds and experiences and types of roles and domains represented on the steering committee is really important, especially in these early years of our organization, as we're defining what our community is and trying to welcome a broad set of people into the organization. One of the main reasons I got involved with US-RSE is to work for the professionalization of RSE type roles. Like many of you, I was very excited when I found a name for my work that at least a few other people were also using. US-RSE is critical for this, for helping people name their work, connect with others, and then as we go forward to build on that and establish career pathways and get recognition for RSE work. As we do this work to professionalize RSE roles, it's important to keep connected with other organizations working on similar issues. This is why, in addition to participating in RSE-themed events and presenting on RSE topics, I also lead activities with the research computing group CARC, partner with the Academic Data Science Alliance, and present at other research computing and data conferences and meetings like PERC and RDAP. These connections help us learn from the other organizations and find opportunities for collaboration. In terms of what we want US-RSE to do over the next few years, my main priority is developing it into an organization that can sustain itself and manage the rapid growth we've experienced. This means sorting out issues of logistics, establishing regular events and eventually conference, and we're generally growing from a list of a few people on Slack into an organization that is capable of sustaining the activities of its members long-term. There's so much good work that people in US-RSE are already doing to publicize RSE roles, gain recognition for RSE work, and train and educate each other and potential new RSEs, working to develop a diverse RSE workforce. And we want all of this work to be able to continue. To do that, we need a strong foundation for US-RSE to base that work on. I'd appreciate your vote so I can continue to work with other great folks on the steering committee to develop US-RSE.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chen Chung, and I'm a computational scientist at Oak Ridge National Lab. My primary job is to develop research software for instruments as spallation neutron source, as well as high-flux isotope reactor. My PhD is in material science, and I have used a lot of research software for various instruments at different facilities. So in a way, I have been both a consumer as well as a producer of research software. And I believe my contribution can help further advance the RSE practice to the general research communities. My ultimate goal is, and hopefully in the not so distant future, makes RSE a standard component in modern scientific research. And I believe research software developed following the RSE protocol is more reliable and maintainable, leading to overall repeatable and trustworthy scientific outcomes. Thank you.
All right. these are all the candidates. Thank you so much for running. As I said before, you all should have gotten an email to vote. Everybody is eligible. Please vote. And if you run into any issues or have any questions, let me and Lance know and we'll try to fix it. And back to Ian.
All right. Thanks, Julia. Thanks for organizing it and coordinating everything. Next up, we've got Chris. Oh, there you are,
Hello.
Chris. Chris, who's our inaugural treasurer, is going to talk about our finances and budget and share some other good, interesting, and exciting news. Over to you, Chris.
Excellent. Great. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I missed the first hour. I was in another meeting, but I'm glad to see everyone's here. So that's good. So let me just share my screen if I can. Let's do share screen and then let's make that into presentation mode. Where's the somebody tell me where the present thing is.
Go over to the right next to the share button.
Got all my Zoom people. Oh yeah, there. I can present. Okay, let's try that. How's that look, everybody? Does that look okay?
You got it. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Well, hi everybody. So yeah, I had the unfortunate success of getting the only person. I was the only person who was voted for treasurer. So you know, I think. So I get to kind of go a little bit over just how we're thinking financially about the organization and what sort of priorities we've got for the coming year in terms of finances, and then possible paths for fundraising. And I think Ian maybe teased this earlier, but we have our official first t-shirts available, and I'll talk a bit about those and how exciting they are. So yeah, so first sort of general background and status for people who haven't been following, which is most people, I hope. Here we go. So let's see. So yeah, so our financial status is we currently use something called the Open Collective Foundation. So, and you can go to this URL, https opencollective.com, US-RSE, to manage our finances. So Open Collective is what's called a fiscal host organization that supports transparent accounting, taxes, invoicing, and provides 501c3 compliance. So this saves us from having to sort of do any books ourselves. There's a little bit of, you know, they take a small percentage of activity on our accounts, but they kind of manage all that sort of stuff for us. OCF actually hosts US-based public collectives open to anyone with a charitable mission. So our kind of description of our mission is on the right here. It's kind of based on you know, what's on our website. It is slightly tailored to the needs of sort of the tax compliance and things like that. So OCF, you know, it's a new organization and a new idea, but it currently hosts about 6,200 organizations, of which 2,700 or so are in the open source space. And I think organizations involved in OCF have budgets anything from, you know, less than $1,000 to more than $200,000. So, but yeah, that's how we kind of actually keep our books and things under control. And interestingly, OCF is very much about transparent finances. So if you go to the website, you can actually pull down on that link that says budget, look at the transactions, and you can see all the transactions that go on into our account. So we're very keen to make sure everything's open and transparent and everybody can see what's going on. And there's a list of things on the right that have gone on, and that's actually, you know, we are not a financially kind of active organization yet. So we have a few things going on, including an $800 donation from Vanessa. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for this year. And then you can see sort of the balance and things as I think down in the, I can't see because I've got all the people in the way, but I think somewhere we've used some of the money from that donation and other and some other gifts from Sandra and I think myself, and then Lance is actually giving us a regular donation that to help with a logo design activity. So the site that's there, you can go there and actually contribute to it, to the US-RSE as well. So it supports tax deductible contributions. So if you make any donations, you get back kind of all the bits you need to kind of show that this is a donation to a tax deductible organization. If you go on, it's under this contribute button at the site, and you can see how there's sort of various ways you can actually contribute. You can make a donation of any size you want, and you can do it named or anonymously if you want. So there is a transaction fee, just to be transparent about that, and there is a small financial service fee, which is what Visa or PayPal or any bank actually charges. This is why when you go to your gas station and they want cash from you, it's because they can avoid some of these. But otherwise, there is a small fee that tends on all the transactions we've done so far. It's somewhere in the 3 to 6% range. It depends a little bit on which mechanism you use to actually transfer money into the account. So the current status, here we go. Yeah, so our approved account, we kind of got everything sorted in May 2021 and made sure we were kind of compliant with all the kind of legalese. Donations to date, as I said, 6 total, ranging from $10 to $800, 1 monthly recurring. Expenses to date have been a 1 paid thing for the logo upgrade, and I think that there's still a pending one for the software we use, or the cloud service we use to handle the elections. So that leaves us, I think, currently at about 481 with dollars in our account, with 89 kind of committed. Let's see. Ooh, it's not paging forward. Here we go. So yeah, so this is more kind of more interesting in some ways. So our targets for the coming year, we would like to try and raise our kind of annual revenue at least to about 5,000K to 5K, sorry, to start with, which is actually, as we've grown in membership, it's become clear that we could really use a kind of subscription service membership management tool. This would allow us to have tools that easily facilitate communication between members. We have Slack already, but kind of people getting to get to know each other, have a member directory that could be self-maintained better, and do more in terms of contacts and networking, and things in addition to sort of say the job board, just being able to get people so that they can network more readily. And it would also free up some of the volunteer time that currently has to go into actual more kind of basic stuff around just administering, having new members coming in and keeping track of everything. So that's kind of some of the ways we'd like to try and raise some money for. We'd also like to be able to have logo gift items that we could give away to guest speakers, more meeting organizing volunteers, and so on. We've had some great input from everybody over the last year, and it would be nice to have little ways to kind of acknowledge that. And I think we'd also like to try and create a small kind of student award fund that maybe could grow over time, which would provide small awards to help students interested in the RSE field. We frequently get contacted by people about, I'm interested in this as a career. How do I sort of, what can I do to get started? I think, being able to help people go to travel to meetings, if we, once we get back to that sort of thing, or help people get involved in technology projects would be something we'd like. But we also kind of are interested very much in input on ideas for what people might, other things that we might do. And so there is a Menti, or there should be a menti.com up at the moment, where there's a question around thoughts, comments, ideas on US-RSE fundraising plans and related items. And I think I got the code right on the slide. I just put it up just before the talk, so and then copied it in. So I know if anyone wants to try and see it go there, it should be just sitting there, I believe, and you can enter some things. I don't know, anybody out there tried it and see if they can get there? I've only actually got one screen, so I can't quite see. Yeah.
It's working.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I think I mean, feel free to post a few things there. We'll look and see what gets there. In the meantime, while you're posting there, the other really exciting thing is really kind of getting everybody to think about other ways we might raise funds. Okay, so it's an all volunteer enterprise at the moment. We are growing. It is possible to imagine evolving to a more substantial enterprise, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, the kind of academic community of computer scientists has these organizations where they actually provide professionally supported newsletters, resources to support students, and resources to really support RSE or their domain-wide position papers, and provide strategic vision for where their field should go and careers and so on. So I think, for people to think about as they're posting ideas on there, I will show some logo items in a minute, but the other thing, obviously, we've got tax deductible gifts as one way to try and do things, but there are other things that these other organizations do. Some of these organizations have membership fees, they have meetings with attendance fees, they engage with commercial sponsors, we have been working with some philanthropic partners already. We can do more of that. But yeah, it would be great to get some kind of thoughts on that Menti site, and then maybe in the discussion at the end of this section, we could kind of compare what people's thinking is on that as we go forward. But then, final slide, okay, we do have our first ever US-RSE fundraising drive. So this is we're doing this through an organization called Custom Inc. I don't know who's heard of it, but it allows you to produce kind of on-demand various different logo items. There's some rules around how many things you can do at once and things like that. So we've opted to do these fabulous, very chic black t-shirts and hoodies and things this year for at least our winter 2021 line of US-RSE logo wear. It's available now until midnight on December the 24th at the moment. And our goal is to try and get around at least 50 of these sold, which would raise about $500 for the US-RSE. We actually need to sell at least 12 for printing, and we'll put some more information on our website about this. But and if we get less than 12 orders, nobody gets charged for anything. But down the road, we are interested also in doing more fundraisers along these lines. It's our first foray into this, but this is going to be the only chance to buy the first ever US-RSE clothing item. So we're going to see what people think of those. So we'll see how many we can get, how many people we can get wearing them to kind of, convey our message around the world as well. These are things you can wear and convey to your management and your peers who you are and what your thinking is. Okay, so I think that's the end of the financial thing. I think what I can do, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and see if I can find the Menti page in my browser. See what we got, if we've got anything. Yeah, so let me see if I can share the browser window. We can just see what we've got in Menti. Where's Zoom again? Back to Zoom. Share screen. And there's the Menti window. So yeah, so we've got people thinking about foundations, company backing of some sort, and certainly I think that's an interesting idea. Lab sponsoring, yeah, maybe some, I don't know. MIT, we're very tough about that, so I always, but other places maybe not so much. But yeah, t-shirts, good, yeah, and workshops. So let's see, we've got some things in chat. So yeah, so I think maybe now we go into kind of more the just general open discussion of everybody. But it'd certainly be great to get people's input on kind of, ways we could start to mature our financial basis as an organization, as well as all the other things we've got going on. Okay, thank you. I think it's Dan, are you going to kind of lead the discussion-y bits?
Yes, sorry, just trying to unmute. Yeah, so it's great. I guess if there are any questions, maybe we should just start with any kind of general questions that have come up for any of the speakers, and then we can move on to talking about any general things. We had a form initially where we asked people if they had questions ahead of time to put them into that form, and nothing has appeared through the form. So I think we have some completely open time at this point. So I would say if you have a question, please use the hand feature, and then I'll call on you. Or you can type something in the chat. And if there are no questions coming up, no, sorry, clapping is not a question. If there are no questions coming, okay, yes, David.
Hey, just really quick, since we brought up other conferences and places to talk about US-RSE, I'm involved with SciPy conference, and I haven't seen you all there before, even though I've been going for 5 years. So definitely seems like a good fit. Let me know how I can help with that.
I agree. When is the next SciPy, David? Is it soon or is it? Do you know?
Right, that's a good question. In response to my comment, that was not a question. The next one is in July, and the announcement will be like I think it's February or March. It'll go up. So.
I know that some of us have been at SciPy in some past years. At least I have a few different times. But whether or not we should try to do something organizationally is an interesting question. That might be a good idea. If trying to think, so how we could have that discussion on Slack, or is there trying to think if there's a working group that would make sense to do that? I guess there isn't exactly. So, so I guess Ian, as our chair, maybe I'll ask you kind of how people should suggest things like this, what the right mechanism would be.
I mean, beyond this, beyond vocalizing it in a place where we can write it down and take note of, I think it's probably most actionable if at a point when a conference event is announced, workshop where we might be worth having a presence, and we can look at tracks and ways that we could interact formally within the conference. And some of the ones that we've done, we've submitted a BOF for a panel or a workshop, and just in the context of what the conference provides, that often dictates what we can do there. You know, so if identifying SciPy as a place, then we'll go in and take a look and see, you know, where it might make sense to reach what's probably a demographic that might not know about us, but we can make people aware.
Okay, so I guess Ian, as maybe if you wouldn't mind, if you have a second, maybe you could create an outreach channel in Slack, and maybe put a message in general and following Miranda's suggestion.
I actually just found out there is one, but it hasn't been active.
It's been quiet for a while, but yes, there is one.
Okay, so let's use that and maybe put a message in general saying that it's there. And David, if you can maybe put something there, then we could see who else would want to help organize that. That's either already attending or wants to come. I think that sounds like a great idea.
I will say that we are often looking for folks who are going to go to these conferences already, because we don't have any sort of centralized funding to send like official representatives. And since there are conference registration fees and travel, we often are reliant on somebody who's going to be at a conference to spread the word, but we're always happy to help organize what the session looks like or submit things and that type of help.
Okay, sounds good. Vanessa.
Hey everyone, I'm Vanessa, and my question is interestingly related to this. I have this sort of longer term maybe vision for US-RSE that, you know, we're all about software, but it's interesting, like there are so many barriers, as all of you know, to working on software between institutions. So I think the long-term vision would be, how can we create, you know, policy, protocol, whatever, so that us together at different institutions can more easily work on projects together. This would sort of go along the same lines as like kind of what we're doing down now with respect to, well, I don't know if we're actively doing anything, but we hope to do something with policy at, you know, institutions so that research software engineers are supported. So once we have that, the question is like, how can we better work together on a lot of these projects? So I think that would be super fun. And then it would be very natural to kind of then show up to some of these conferences and not be like a bunch of different people that maybe just by chance have the same interest, but be a bunch of people that identified common problems and then actually we're working on solutions together.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Jeffrey, do you want to say anything, or just want to leave the chat there?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll mention. Yeah, in the molecular sciences, there's a big training program that, you know, so basically they would offer these 1 to 2 year grad student fellowships to make good reproducible software, and they had this Python project template that you were required to use as a condition of the second year of funding. And that has really borne a lot of fruit in the simulations field. Now there's a couple crops of alumni who can all go work on each other's projects and who understand GitHub and etiquette. You know, and reproducing that might be hard because they had a budget maybe of about $1 million a year in those fellowships. And so that's how they got the initial adopters. But that's one successful example of standardization software-wise that I've seen.
Okay, Gabriel? Gabriel?
Yes, yeah, you guys can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. My question is perhaps a little bit different, but I'm asking anyway. Do you guys think that with the new trend of technologies like the metaverse and things like this that are becoming more and more part of our lives, do you think with that we could try to bring younger audiences to really be interested on researching software and to get to know about US-RSE? Do you think that's something worth doing?
Sorry, so I feel like I missed kind of unfortunately the key bit in the middle of that, which is what this is worth doing that you were saying. I just got the beginning and the end. Can you say the middle part of that again? What exactly you're proposing?
Sure. So I asked you, like, do you think that with the new technology trends coming by, like let's say Meta from Facebook and the new tendencies for software developers next year, especially with AI, we could try to bring more young audiences to software research to show them that that is important, something that makes new technology to be available? Or no, do you think that we should focus on other demographics?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea and a good question. Just Vanessa's comment about thinking about this like outreach as another kind of outreach maybe is one good way. Does anybody have any thoughts on this?
I'll add a little bit that I think it's a great point, and I think it's something that US-RSE can and should play a role in bringing this as a interesting and rewarding career path to undergrads or grad students, to help them understand what this career is like, what we do, how it is rewarding, what's interesting about it. It is outreach. It's outreach and awareness and then also providing clear paths for how to get there. And I think US-RSE should be at the center of this, helping to raise awareness. I can only speak for myself as a hiring manager, that especially earlier on, what is this? How does this work? Explain this role to me. Wow, that sounds really cool. I want to do that. And I think that there's a way to get more of that out there. And it's just going to take volunteers and going out and boots on the ground, helping to let people know.
So Sandra, I don't know if you're going to comment on this one or you actually wanted to comment on the thing before as well.
So I commented already in the chat on the thing before that it could be solved via maybe a working group to start some of the topics, because the working group mechanism seems to work really well in this community, and every working group can put like their own schedule and their own topics. And our experience by now is just that you need, a couple of active members who are really enthusiastic about the topic, and then you can move something. And that's what I wanted to say also for this topic. I think to get into new technologies, that is something so many of us are interested in and don't always have time for. Maybe we could do something like having this technology working group, and also Miranda had this idea of this multi-working groups, like so maybe really looking into topics where people say, oh, I want to look into this, and maybe share also knowledge about it, or contact people who can help us to get off the ground. So I think this could be something like we could add to the community called like extra technology talks, invited people to different technologies or something could be an idea.
Yeah, that sounds good. I guess I was also kind of thinking that that to some extent it's an RSE thing, but it's not necessarily a US-RSE thing. So I was wondering if we would maybe be able to get people in other RSE associations also interested. Just because I know we already have a bunch of people in this working, a bunch of the people that are active are already in working groups. And so it's always a challenge to get more people into working groups. So I'm trying to think of how we make a bigger pool of people potentially that could be interested. Okay, other comments on this or anything else, or again, questions for any of the speakers? Nicole.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, when we first started the working group for DEI, outreach was one of the things that we were all really passionate about. I think what we figured out was that, and so it really felt like something that was in the domain of DEI. And of course, I think there's plenty of room for collaboration. And I love that idea that maybe some of these groups should have meetings together sometimes. But I guess that I just wanted to historically note that the challenge of that and the reason that it didn't get attacked was, I think, because it's such an on the ground, boots on the ground effort that really takes individual effort. And while I think, we have more people devoting their time all the time, and I feel like we've become more organized, and maybe that's something we can take on now. I definitely think that it could potentially have a place in DEI or a collaborative working group effort.
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like maybe, Gabrielle, maybe one thing that would be interesting would be if you wanted to come to the DEI working group and maybe propose, I don't know, either kind of leading some of this yourself or kind of trying to find other people and organizing a group that would move this into one of the DEI activities or potentially a different group. Let's see, Vanessa is next.
One thing I've been thinking about is how so much of obviously what we do, how we innovate is based on serving our community. So for example, if you sit in a lab, you will respond to problems that your lab has, or maybe if you sit in the research computing group, you respond to problems that the users have. But what about, let's say there's a university out there and they don't have structure for research software engineers, and sure, they could join US-RSE and they say, hey, I'm a researcher but I need help with these things. I feel like that step is just a big one. Like when you think of people's incentives and barriers, having to think yourself to go out of your way to join a random community and then ask for help, it's probably unlikely to happen. So the question that I have is, how can we make it easier for someone that is not a research software engineer, might be at a university that doesn't have support for software like that, to basically engage with us and to be like, hey, I have this big problem that's related to software and I just want to tell you about it because I think someone out there might be able to help.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's interesting. Sometimes I feel like I get jealous of the situation in other places. And for the minute, this is making me jealous of the UK, where the Software Sustainability Institute, as a kind of big funded project, was out and was able to help the Society of RSEs and the RSE movement grow, and also do things like you're saying. And we don't really have the equivalent of that as a funded project, and we're not a funded project. So that's a good question, and it's interesting. Sandra, I guess, has some comment.
Yes, I wanted to add to that yeah, we are aware of that we have especially this group who are working in silos and don't know about us, and it's as Stan said, an interesting question, and therefore I think one of really what would help us as a community, have social researchers and scientists look into the situation, how we can address these people, how they feel about, for example, which community they are included, and probably in many different, because there are many research topics. So I think really having some social research about it would help us to address topics like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ian.
So I was going to add to the funding of I think what US-RSE can do is, Vanessa, to your point, is try to shed light on this need, on the demand that's out there. And maybe that means creating some kind of forum by which people can say, I wish I had help, and bring this to the light of funders, to other places that want to solve technology problems. And then it's maybe something like an SSI or something that can then fund a program that helps to solve places where they don't have access. I feel like it's our job is to promote and advocate why we need this, and I think people will listen. Like the fact we can have that influence. I don't know if we can necessarily solve the problem. We're going to need help there to solve the problem.
Yeah, I guess one of the other things that's interesting is that this this also kind of reminds me that we have this, at least some of us are going to be in the software workshop that DOE is doing next week, I think, if my weeks are right. And so it'll be, maybe this is something that we should try to bring up there as well, that maybe then would lead to, I don't know, some part of the report that leads to potential DOE funding in this area. And again, that may be more focused on labs than universities, but still might be reasonable. But as Vanessa was saying, it may also not be something that's funding. It may be something we really can do in a different way. Sorry, and Vanessa?
Yeah, and Dan, what you just said is another thing I think is really important. I think there's somewhat of a barrier between like academic institutions and national labs, and I think we actually need to sort of purposefully create some kind of structure that allows us to better work together. So if that comes from some plan from the DOE that then trickles down, that would be great.
Okay, any other comments on, again, on this or anything else? Suggestions for other things that US-RSE should do? Groups that US-RSE should align with? Places that US-RSE should have a presence? Yeah, Vanessa again.
Yeah, so actually I was just joking about this with Miranda at the beginning of the call, but could we ever have a future where, for example, there'd be like in major cities like US-RSE little like hangouts or offices where I don't know, you'd come together and you'd work with others. Like, could there actually be this like sort of national fabric of RSEs and resources for RSEs? So like you really could be an RSE at your own little lonely university, but then you have a place to go. And I don't mean like next year, I mean like long term. So don't be like, oh, Vanessa, that's like expensive. It's never gonna happen. Like it could happen.
No, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I'll be very happy to offer some space in the major city of Urbana, Illinois, for anybody that wants to drop by and talk about RSE events. We probably have an office we can create. I think Sandra actually mentioned RSE events in Chicago in her candidate talk as well. So I think there definitely has been discussion about things that could be focused on regions or on cities. So I guess, Miranda, did you want to say something about this topic? If not, I think Ian maybe could talk about this one, then we can come back to you. But either way.
I had a comment about a bigger question, not necessarily about the spaces. So if Ian, you have a comment about the RSE devoted spaces, feel free to go first.
Yeah, I just want to add that this is by no means the first time this has come up. It comes up a lot of the want to be able to connect locally in some capacity. And I think we probably would have made a bit more traction on trying to set up some kind of local meetups in one of the hubs of, we look at the map of where people are located, if it weren't for COVID. So I think, Vanessa, to your sort of idyllic end is, let's find someone who has some space who can host a get together, and everybody from a couple hours can drive and get to meet and hang out, and then go from there.
Yeah, I'll also mention, I'm just looking at my old emails, and I had we were in the middle of a discussion about a Midwest RSE workshop. And the last email that I have about this was March 1st of 2020, and then somehow we didn't actually do anything after that. But maybe we should actually bring that back now at this point. Let's see. So, okay, Miranda.
Okay, so back to the topic of where else can we kind of try to reach people. We kind of accidentally managed to reach a new subset of people at SC21 this year because I happen to know the person who organizes who was organizing the student program. But I think that we might want to do a better job of having a bigger presence in those student programs and the conferences where we already have some sort of footprint. because sure, we might have a workshop, but what if the students have something else that's going on at that time and they don't know what RSEs are? So meh, why would they go to it? So maybe we just do a little bit of better job of like at least informing through these conferences and the student outreach programs that happen at the conferences, what we are and what we do.
Yeah, that sounds great. I guess maybe that's something I'm thinking. Maybe that's something else that could get talked about in the outreach channel, and maybe that outreach channel does turn into a working group. And this is one of its activities potentially, is to look for those good student opportunities to make an early impact. David again.
I just want to bring this up since it came up in the media group discussion yesterday, and also Sandra mentioned it. But in my field in neuroscience, we do like a bunch of classroom visits. They have like Brain Awareness Week. And it just seems like, I mean, why couldn't we just start going to do classroom visits now? Like teachers are so hungry to have someone come in and like talk and share real world experience. So I just want to mention that.
Okay. We also had, let's see, I'm just looking at comments in Slack. So we had a suggestion from Blaine about the surf. Sorry, I'm having a hard time pronouncing two S's correctly. I don't know, Blaine, do you want to say anything about
that? Yeah, so this is a organization of user research facilities, and they have had several annual meetings recently, and they're interested in these sort of topics related to the sustainability of science, done, of course, at user facilities. But this is not only DOE-funded facilities, but NSF and other related facilities.
So if you were active in that, maybe you could help make a connection to maybe get, I don't know, a US-RSE presentation or something like that as a way of kind of starting a discussion.
Sure, they had an annual meeting just back in November, and I think they're planning on having another one next year. But getting a presence there would be a great idea.
Great, thank you. Let's see, again, kind of scanning through things, and we'll get to David if you have something new, and then Sandra again in a second. In addition to my invitation for people to come to Urbana, Ian has invited everyone to come to Princeton, so that's good. Not quite sure. Urbana, Princeton, I don't know. Okay, let's see. So we have Keith also at Lawrence Berkeley. Seems good. Patrick talking about the NSF access and opportunities there. I don't know, Patrick, do you want to say anything about that, or just the comment?
I think I said everything I needed to in the little comment. Just, Exceed is kind of winding down next year or two, and they're going to have a follow-up. And there's discussions right now about what that follow-up is going to look like. Is it hardware? Is it people? Is it software? And what components of all those things it's going to look like. And so it's just a really good time now to have this conversation and to kind of, talk with our NSF contacts about what that might look like. I think it's time for influence.
Okay. And Charles mentions that DOE is in a similar position potentially with Exascale, so probably talk to DOE program officers as well. Okay, Sandra, you have something else.
Yes, since we started to talk about the high school situation, and thank you for bringing that up. We have a DPI one program that trains high school teachers in computer science, and also so that really the next generation is prepared. And I think to share maybe this program my colleagues are setting up there is maybe a way also RSE to bring that to other schools, because the DPI program at the moment focuses really on the Chicago area. But so they have done quite a few training and workshop programs now, and I think it's a great way to bring it to high school students.
Okay, thank you. Other comments, including from anybody that's put anything in chat who wants to say something as opposed to just having it in chat? Chad's question is a good one. And I don't have any idea. So does anyone on the website group have a thought on that?
So the map, oh, sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
That's okay. Go ahead if you're saying.
So the map, we technically know where everyone is, granted that you provide that information, but we obviously don't, put that out there publicly. We just have summaries for different locations. So it could be possible to get people kind of connected, but we would need to get permission from people to kind of do that. So I'm not sure how the best way to do that would be.
Yeah, it may be, Chad, that it could just be that you put a message in the general channel and say, hey, I'm in wherever, does anybody else who's there want to meet up or something like that?
Yeah, maybe a secondary question then when someone fills out this map question is, can we have your permission to release your email to other people that identify as being in your area or whatever?
So I just want to add, this is exactly one of the things we hope with a more formal member management system of having a member directory, and you can opt in and say, put these details in this directory, and then you're searchable for your location, and contactable, and a bit more. We just have to financially get to the point where we can support that.
Okay, great. Miranda, did you have something you wanted to say as well? I saw your hand briefly.
Oh, I was just going to say, I could say mine out loud, which is, there's this idea that David brought up too about in terms of like student outreach, or, especially at high schools and middle schools, to try to pair with existing programs rather than make our own from scratch. Kind of like this idea of the Skype a Scientist, like Skype an RSE or something like that. And this came up because, in this DEI Media Club discussion we had yesterday, I brought up that at least when I was in college, I participated in a STEM outreach program for like impoverished schools in our area, or areas that don't have access necessarily to as many of those like STEM resources. So, things like that exist. And if we can try to find them and just, say, hey, we'll come in some sort of rotation for you, it might be an easy in.
Okay, yep, that makes sense as well. That actually kind of reminds me also that the AGU meeting, American Geophysics Union meeting coming up, there's a data and software help desk, and there's a call for people to volunteer on that software help desk. And I think we put that in the general channel. I hope we did. So if anybody's interested in that, you can certainly get in touch with me and I can kind of connect you into that. It's basically kind of signing up for a shift to follow some email channel for a little bit of time, and then answering any questions that come in, typically from geoscientists who have software questions like, how do I pick a license, or what should I do with my software if I want to share it, or things like that. And it might be an interesting way to kind of make some new connections if anybody is interested. Ian, next.
All right, so I have a question for people who are here. I always love these meetings and these discussions because they're all great ideas, and I want to do every single one of them. And I realize I can't. And the challenge and the open question is, how do we encourage and incentivize new members, folks who are wondering how to get involved, to catch on to one of these things and help contribute towards the mission? I mean, we're all volunteering, we all have day jobs, we're all eager to advance some of these things, but what's the secret to getting more people involved? Does anyone have ideas to this end? I just killed the conversation, huh?
No, Miranda has something.
All right, good. Thank you, Miranda.
You're welcome. It might be good to hold something that's a little bit more informal, that's like a US-RSE social session almost, because we have opportunities to do things like this, but our conversations are very technical. I don't know a lot about most of you. I know that Keith likes really bad jokes, but that's only because I'm on a different project with him, So that being said, if we try to introduce more of the social aspect, it might encourage people to learn more about, things that other people are doing, and be more engaged and invested.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. I think it seems like that would be something that'd be well worth trying. Keith.
Come on, who doesn't like dad jokes? Thank you for bringing that up, Ian. I think that, I don't know, I oftentimes feel entirely overwhelmed with the number of things that I want to do versus the number of things that I can do. And I mean, just looking at Slack and how I probably have hundreds of unread messages in there that I'm never going to get to. I don't know, maybe there's something about, you know, get involved, do what you can, don't beat yourself up if you can't get to everything. I don't know, some kind of like social supportive communication like that, or maybe even topics about how to manage you know, burnout and that sort of thing. I mean, I feel like these things we're sneaking up on those kind of topics, right? That maybe I'm taking it too seriously, I don't know. But
I mean, so it seems like the SSW has done a bunch of things in this area that have been very very popular. So I think it's definitely something that we could be doing some of as well, or maybe working together with them. Miranda, something you have another point, response?
Yes, I have so many ideas. I'm sorry.
Great.
Another thing that would be really cool. So Sandia does this really interesting thing when somebody new joins Sandia. There's the Sandia Buddy program where you have a Sandia buddy to just kind of talk to you about Sandia, not about necessarily your job. Like it's not like they're generally speaking, actually more often than not, have nothing to do with, you know, your organization or whatever. They're just there to try to like help you navigate whatever this big Sandia culture is. Like we could do a US-RSE buddy program for people who are new, and you know, that way people who are interested but don't really, again, know what to do or how to navigate this weird world of the US-RSE Association and its bazillion Slack channels, then maybe we could give them help.
Yep, sounds good. Keith, your hand is still up, and I'm going to assume it's just still up, and go to Nicole.
So I just want to add on to that I think that's a great idea, and just to say that I think in an ideal world we would all want to have a mentorship program too, and maybe that's a really good stepping stone, is to have some sort of program like that.
Sandra.
Yeah, sorry, me again. Yeah, adding also to I really like the buddy idea also. And the other thing I would like them to suggest also, maybe we can do something. Some people might be overwhelmed also, oh, if I join in this working group, how much do I have to do? So to make clear that any contribution is welcome, as little as much as everyone can plan in. And I think we brought this message in every working group up, but maybe we have to relay it also to people who are not in a working group yet, in a way that they don't feel like intimidated if they join something that they have to plan for working on this 10 hours a month or something.
Yeah, makes sense. I have to say, I was thinking, I like this buddy program. I was thinking, right, you could have a buddy you're an RSE, you have a buddy who's an RSE, you're an RSE leader, you have a buddy who's an RSE leader potentially, you're an ally, you have a buddy who's an ally. Could be interesting as well if we go across people also. Okay, so we've got a little less than 10 minutes left. I don't know that we actually need to take the entire time in a 2-hour meeting. Maybe it's nice to end a few minutes early and let people have a break before whatever they're going to do in the next hour. So if there are any other comments anybody wants to make, that would be great. And if not, maybe I'll ask Ian in a second or two if he has any last words to close since he started. Okay, so Ian, you want to wrap things up?
Sure. I'll just say thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for your support. Thanks for all those, largely many of you are here who are contributing, who are making efforts to make US-RSE bigger, better, and evolving into what it is today. It's really exciting to see. I think 2022 offers lots of possibilities, and I'm excited to see where this takes us. So thanks for coming. Please continue to spread the word, things like the survey, or just mentioning US-RSE at places in the RSE role in general, we'll continue to drive this forward. So thanks for coming today. Look forward to seeing everyone on Slack, and have a good weekend.